Is Chelsea about to lose everything at once? Let me paint a picture for you. Your best player is unhappy, your manager just walked out, the team is sitting sixth in the Premier League, and somewhere in Manchester people are watching all of this with a very wide smile on their faces. That is the reality at Chelsea right now, and if you are a Chelsea fan, it is hard not to feel like the wheels are starting to come off. This is not just one bad month or one bad result. This feels like something bigger is happening at Stamford Bridge, and the people at the top of the club need to wake up before it is too late. So today, we are going to break all of this down properly. The Cole Palmer situation, the Enzo Maresca exit, the fake quote that spread like wildfire on social media, and most importantly, what all of this means for Chelsea going forward. Grab a drink. This is going to be a long one. Cole Palmer is not happy, and that should scare every Chelsea fan. Let us start with the big one. Cole Palmer. This is the player Chelsea rebuilt their whole identity around. When he arrived from Manchester City in the summer of 2023, a lot of people were not sure what to expect. He was talented, yes, but was he ready to be the main man at a top Premier League club? Well, he answered that question very quickly. His debut season was one of the most impressive individual performances from a young player the Premier League had seen in years. Goals, assists, creativity, big moments in big games. Palmer had everything. But now, heading into the summer of 2026, the story has changed. According to reports from The Sun, Cole Palmer is said to be increasingly unhappy at Chelsea. The word being used is disillusioned, and when a player that important starts feeling that way, it is a problem that cannot be ignored. So what exactly is making him unhappy? There are a few things going on here, and they are all connected. The first issue is the tactics. Under head coach Liam Rosenior, Chelsea have shifted how they play. The structure of the team has changed, and Palmer reportedly feels that these changes have taken away the space he needs to do what he does best. Think about how good Palmer was in his first season. He had freedom, he could drift, find pockets, pick passes, take players on. That is what made him so dangerous. If the team shape is now taking all of that away from him, it makes sense that he would feel frustrated. A creative player without space is like a painter without a canvas. The second issue is Nicholas Jackson leaving. Now, this one might surprise some people because Jackson was not always the most consistent player, but his relationship with Palmer on the pitch was something special. They understood each other. Jackson made runs that opened up space for Palmer. Palmer made passes that found Jackson in exactly the right moments. When Chelsea sent Jackson to Bayern Munich on a season-long loan, they brought in João Pedro and Liam Delap as replacements. Both are good players, but the chemistry Palmer had with Jackson is not something you can just replace overnight. And here is a question worth thinking about. Should Chelsea have let Jackson leave in the first place, knowing how important that relationship was to their best player? Because right now, the answer to that question looks like a clear no. Manchester United are watching all of this very carefully. Here is where things get really interesting for Chelsea fans, and really terrifying. Manchester United want Cole Palmer. This is not a new rumor. It has been floating around for a while, but now, with Palmer said to be unhappy, the rumor has gone from background noise to a full-volume alarm bell. Reports suggest United are on red alert, along with Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. Three of the biggest clubs in the world are paying close attention to everything happening at Chelsea, and when you have Real Madrid and Bayern Munich in the picture, you know the player being discussed is genuinely elite. But the United link is the one that feels most significant. Why? Because Palmer is a boyhood Manchester United fan. He grew up supporting them. That kind of emotional connection to a club does not disappear just because you are playing professionally somewhere else. Deep down, there is a part of Palmer that probably always wondered what it would feel like to play for the club he grew up loving. There is also a personal connection at United that makes this even more interesting. Jason Wilcox, United's director of football, worked at Manchester City's academy during Palmer's time there. He knows Palmer well. He has spoken highly of him before, saying he believed one of City's academy graduates had what it takes to win the Ballon d'Or. That kind of belief in a player is powerful, and with Wilcox and chief executive Omar Barada both coming from Manchester City backgrounds, United have built a recruitment structure that is deeply familiar with Palmer as a person and as a player. They are not just signing someone they have watched on TV, they would be signing someone they know. Chelsea, for their part, insist that Palmer is untouchable. They have him under contract until 2033, and they have put a price tag of £150 million on him. That is a huge number, but in modern football, huge numbers do not always stop transfers from happening. If a player wants to leave badly enough, and if a club with enough money comes calling, contracts and price tags become just the starting point of a negotiation. Here is another question to sit with. At what point does keeping an unhappy superstar do more damage than selling him and reinvesting the money? Chelsea need to answer that question carefully and quickly. The Enzo Maresca situation and why you should not believe everything you see online. Now let us talk about the manager situation because this is where things get a little complicated and where social media did what social media does best, which is spread nonsense at high speed. Enzo Maresca left Chelsea on January 1st, 2026. That part is real. It was confirmed, and it shocked a lot of people in English football. Maresca had come in with a clear philosophy and a lot of promise, but his relationship with the club's ownership group broke down, and he was gone. What followed his departure was a firestorm of rumors, most of them linking Maresca to Manchester City, where Pep Guardiola has been stepping back from his role. The idea of Maresca potentially replacing Guardiola at City is the kind of story that writes itself. Former Chelsea manager goes to City. Chelsea fans left heartbroken. It is dramatic, and it is exactly the kind of thing people on social media love to run with. And run with it they did. A tweet from an account called Nino12X, which has no real credibility as a football news source, started going viral. The tweet claimed to be breaking news about Maresca's first interview since leaving Chelsea. It included a quote that read something like, "My dream has always been to coach Manchester City. I could not wait to leave Chelsea, honestly, and Pep already gave me his blessings." Now, if you saw that tweet and your stomach dropped, you are not alone. A lot of Chelsea fans and football followers saw it and immediately started sharing it, reacting to it, and treating it as fact. But here is the thing. That quote is almost certainly not real. When you look at the tweet carefully, several things stand out that should make you very suspicious. The account posting it is not a verified journalist or a known football reporter. The video in the screenshot has a watermark from a show called Despeja, which is a Spanish-language football entertainment program, not a serious news interview. The language of the quote itself sounds too dramatic and too perfectly designed to cause controversy. Real footballers and managers, even when they are being honest about their feelings, do not usually speak in ways that are so openly disloyal. More importantly, before he left Chelsea, Maresca himself came out and publicly called the Manchester City links 100% speculation. He said he was absolutely committed to Chelsea and pointed to his contract running until 2029. Now, that does not mean the City interest was not real, but it does mean the idea of him saying he could not wait to leave Chelsea is completely at odds with how he was speaking publicly at the time. So what actually happened? The real story is that Maresca left Chelsea after it emerged he had held conversations with people connected to Manchester City about potentially replacing Guardiola. That was enough to create a serious breakdown of trust with Chelsea's ownership. He was gone on January 1st, and the club has since been dealing with the aftermath. The lesson here is simple, and it is one worth repeating. Do not believe everything you see on social media, especially when it comes from accounts you have never heard of, and especially when the quote sounds too perfectly designed to make one club look bad and another look good. Football social media is full of content designed to get clicks and reactions, not to give you accurate information. The best thing you can do is check multiple sources before you react to something. Wait for a trusted journalist to confirm a story before you start treating it as fact. The bigger picture. What kind of club is Chelsea right now? Let us step back for a second and look at the full picture. Chelsea are 6th in the Premier League. They were knocked out of Europe in humiliating fashion, losing 8-2 on aggregate to Paris Saint-Germain. Their star player is unhappy, their manager left under a cloud, and two of the clubs who might come for their best player, Bayern Munich and Real Madrid, are clubs they just failed to compete with on the European stage. This is not the Chelsea that anyone imagined when Todd Boehly and his group took over and started spending hundreds of millions of pounds on players. The project was supposed to be ambitious. It was supposed to be smart. It was supposed to build something long-term. And there have been flashes of that. Palmer himself was a brilliant signing. Some of the young players in the squad have real potential, but the results on the pitch have not matched the investment, and now the mood around the club feels uneasy. For Palmer, the question of whether to stay or go is not just about tactics or teammates. It is about ambition. It is about whether he believes Chelsea can get back to competing for the biggest prizes in football. Right now, looking from the outside, it is hard to make a convincing argument that they can do that in the near future. Real Madrid wins Champions Leagues, Bayern Munich wins Bundesligas and goes deep in Europe. Manchester United, even through all their struggles, remain one of the most famous clubs in the world with a fan base that Palmer grew up being part of. Chelsea, at this moment, are 6th, without Champions League football, without a settled manager, without a clear identity on the pitch. If you were Palmer, what would you do? What Chelsea must do to fix this? This is the part of the article where we move from describing the problem to thinking about the solution. Because Chelsea are not a lost cause. They have money, they have some talented players, they have infrastructure, but they need to make some very smart decisions in the next few months. The first thing they need to do is build a proper relationship with Palmer, not just contract discussions, not just public statements about him being untouchable, real conversations about what he needs to feel happy and motivated, what tactical changes would help him, what type of striker does he want to play with, what does the plan for the club look like over the next 3 years. Palmer is 23 years old. He wants to know he is playing for something meaningful. Chelsea need to give him a reason to believe in that. The second thing they need to do is get the right manager in place and stick with them. Chelsea have had more managers in recent years than most clubs would have in a decade. That kind of instability affects everything. Players cannot settle into a system. Youth players do not know what the club wants from them. Recruitment becomes scattered because every manager has different ideas. Stability at the top is not just nice to have, it is essential. The third thing they need to do is be honest about their goals. If Champions League football is the target, what is the actual plan to get there? Sixth place is not good enough. A heavy European exit is not good enough. The ownership needs to look at what has worked, what has not worked, and make real changes rather than just spending more money on more players. And finally, they need to stop letting social media narratives go unchallenged. The fake Maresca quote spread because no one from the club came out quickly to address it. In today's world, misinformation moves fast. Clubs need to be just as fast in pushing back on false stories. A word on the fans. Something that gets lost in all of these transfer stories and management changes is what it feels like to be a Chelsea fan right now. These are real people who have put time, money, and emotion into supporting this club. They bought tickets, they watched matches at odd hours, they wore the shirt with pride, and right now a lot of them are anxious. They are watching their best player possibly on his way out. They are reading fake quotes on social media and not knowing what to believe. They are watching a season that has not delivered what they hoped for. That matters. The fans are not just customers. They are the heartbeat of the club. And when the club is in this kind of messy period, the fans deserve honesty from the people running things, not just positive press releases, real honesty about the challenges and the plan to overcome them. If you are part of this Chelsea community, your loyalty during difficult times is what makes football special. The clubs that come back from rough periods always do it with their fan base fully behind them. And for that to happen, the fans need to feel like the club actually cares about what they think and what they feel. Final thoughts. So, where does all of this leave us? Chelsea are at a crossroads. The decisions made in the next few months will define the next few years of this club, whether Palmer stays or goes, who the next manager is and what kind of football they play, whether the ownership can find a way to build the kind of culture and stability that turns talented players into a winning team. The Maresca fake quote was a reminder that in the age of social media, it is easy to get swept up in stories that are designed to generate noise rather than inform. As fans and as football watchers, we have a responsibility to think critically about what we read and share, but the real issues at Chelsea are not fake. The tactical frustration Palmer feels is real. The chemistry problem in the final third is real. The instability caused by losing another manager is real. Sixth place is real. Chelsea need to stop putting out fires and start building something solid. They need to treat their best player with the kind of respect and clarity that makes him want to stay. They need to find a manager who can build an identity and stick with it. And they need to reconnect with a fan base that deserves a club to be proud of. The question is not whether Chelsea can do all of this. They clearly have the resources. The question is whether the people making the decisions have the patience and the wisdom to actually do it. Because right now, the clock is ticking. And somewhere in Manchester, the smiles are getting wider by the day. What do you think? Is Cole Palmer gone this summer? And who should Chelsea bring in as their next permanent manager? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This conversation is just getting started.